The Canadian Club, and I want to welcome our webcast and Facebook Live viewers who are right there. Hello, welcome. We wish you could be here in person, but you're here virtually, and that counts for something. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Come From Away, creating a Broadway sensation. Before I formally introduce our panelists, I want to tell you about two of our upcoming events. First is tomorrow, December 14th. It is our final event of the 2017 season, and it will feature Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Poloz. So the event will be very similar to this, but I know, he's maybe a little drier, and he does not have 7 Tony nominations, for the record. He does not. As is club tradition, we will also start our year with our outlook to the future of the political and economic landscape for 2018. That will be on Tuesday, January the 9th. I get to moderate that one, and one of the questions inspired by today that I'm just going to roll right in there is I'm going to ask our experts to predict how many times the Mirvishes will extend Come From Away. Because I think that is as valid as their view of the Canadian dollar and oil prices. I mean, we need to know. How's that going to work? To order your tickets to the Canadian Club, you go to canadianclub.org. If you want to hang out with us on social media, it is CDN Club Toronto. CDN Club Toronto, that's our hashtag. I also want to do a special welcome to the youth and young leaders in attendance from University of Toronto and Sheridan College. Where are you? Well, okay, on each side, you're like bookends. You're bookends. Welcome. And also to thank the Carpenters District Council for supporting the participation of our young leaders. Thank you to the Carpenters District Council. Fantastic. So here's the mission of the Canadian Club. The mission of the Canadian Club is to engage Canadians in what matters most. To engage Canadians in what matters most. Art matters. Art really, really matters. So on this podium, lots and lots of times we have cabinet ministers and prime ministers and CEOs and leaders of all sorts covering the political and economic and business topics that are really relevant to Canadians. But I am so pleased that we get to talk about art today. We are really, really excited to be welcoming the Canadian geniuses behind the award-winning musical Come From Away. So I'm going to do the introductions, and then I'm going to pass the baton to Jill. Irene Sankoff and David Hein, writers and composers. The Canadian writing team currently at work on the Come From Away screenplay. Oh yeah, it's gonna be a musical, I know. They've won a whole bunch of theatrical prizes, including 3 Drama Desk Awards, including Best Musical. David and Irene were nominated for Tony Awards for Best Book and Score, and now a Grammy, which basically means they're best friends with Drake. I think. Is that what it means? That's totally what it means. Christopher Ashley, director. Christopher is the artistic director of the La Jolla Playhouse. His directorial credits include Xanadu, which I loved, Leap of Faith, All Shook Up, Memphis, and Rocky Horror Show. He won the Tony Award for his direction of Come From Away, which is pretty amazing. And we want to hear about that night, by the way. I can't even imagine. Sue Frost and Randy Abbins were producers. Randy is a Tony Award-winning producer and founding partner of Junkyard Dog Productions, a theatrical producing company dedicated to the development and production of new musical theater. Sue Frost is also a founding partner of Junkyard Dog Productions. She was associate producer at Goodspeed Musicals for over 20 years, where she produced more than 50 musicals. Our discussion today will be moderated by Jill Deacon, radio host and television broadcaster. She is the host of Here and Now on CBC Radio 1. She is also one of Canada's best-known environmental writers. And Jill and I do a weekly thing on radio, so when you see me blast out of here, it's because I'm getting prepped for Jill when we're going to be on the air this afternoon. Crazy. So if you have any questions, there are question cards on your table. You can fill them out and just kind of wave them around wildly, and one of our staff members will find you, bring them up to Jill to include into the conversation. Jill and our Come From Away guests, the Canadian Club of Toronto's podium is yours.
Woohoo! Thank you, Bruce. Yeah, Bruce will be more prepared for our conversation this afternoon than I will, clearly, because he's leaving before me. It is such a great pleasure to be here. I feel I need to state for the record, with some apology and sheepishness right off the top, that I have not seen Come From Away. I know. I know. Does it count that I weep when I read about Come From Away? When I think about Come From Away? I was explaining to David I had pneumonia last year when the media, when it launched. Otherwise, I would have been there like everybody else who really wanted to get to see it. So I'm signed up for when the show comes back. So with that as my disclaimer that I know not of what I speak, except by reputation, you know, wild congratulations to you all for not the first time, I know, for the extraordinary success that this has become. And we want to talk a little bit about some of the steps along the way and how we even got here. And I want to start with you, Irene, in just, you know, the story that it tells. There are obviously a lot of people in this room who have seen the show, but the story that inspired you and the person who kind of cajoled you into this, talk to me a little bit about that, about the origin story here.
Sure. We have been doing another show called My Mother's Lesbian Jewish Wiccan Wedding, which was also produced by the Mirvishes. And we met with someone that we actually didn't know at the time. He was a lawyer and a theater producer and was about to start working at Sheridan College. And he gave us this book, and he said, like, this would make like a great story. Did you know what happened out in Newfoundland? And we said, oh, you know, we were.
He gave you what book?
It was called The Day the World Came to Town.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had been in New York over September 11th, so we didn't really know what he was talking about. I think you knew that some.
Yeah, we knew that planes had been diverted here, but we didn't know any of the details until we really started deep diving into it and found out that there was going to be a commemoration ceremony that was happening over the 10th anniversary, and all of these.
And there's a Tom Brokaw documentary that mentioned what happened, and.
Yeah, we watched everything we could.
Yeah.
And we found out that all of these come from ways these people who had been diverted there 10 years earlier had decided to return there, 10 years later, to commemorate the friendships they had made. And to reunite with everyone there. And so we applied for a Canada Council for the Arts grant, and we got it, and got to go out there.
Because you knew, so what you knew, for people who had created, you knew the ingredients of a musical, you knew what you needed to have to work with to make something here. What was it that made you say, whoa, let's go, let's get the grant, let's do this? What did you see there that made you want to tell this story?
Something that was extraordinarily good. I mean, we see so much in the news and on television and on our Facebook. I mean, we could go on forever about things that are awful. And this was just so unbelievably wonderful and unbelievably heartfelt that we were just like, well, look, we've got to start shining a light more on stories like this.
And so you went to Gander to do the research. How did you find the people? I mean, I guess you had some stories in the book that would know, or
not so much.
How did you find the people to talk to?
Well, we went
Stand on the street corner, hold up a sign.
Facebook. It was Facebook. We went on to this Canada. I don't even remember what the group was, and should give them their privacy anyway, probably. But we started writing to people who were part of this, people who had been in Gander on September 11th, and we wrote to this one woman, Crystal, and she wrote back, and she said, yeah, sure, you know, I'm kind of shy, but like, I'll talk to you on the phone. And we spoke to her for about 45 minutes, and she told us about what it had been like when she was living in Gambo over those days. And she said, well, you know, when you go out there, like my dad, you can stay with my dad, you know? And we were like, oh, okay. We've gotten a grant. We can pay for hotels, but we will certainly go and meet him. We stayed with her dad for like 2 weeks.
You did?
Yes, we did.
Why? Because
we
you couldn't
talked to her
say
on the phone.
You couldn't say no to him. Why? How did
Why
that?
would we? He was lovely.
Yeah.
You know, and he was like, oh, we're gonna be out, so can you feed the cats? And you know.
They literally gave us the keys to their house. They tried to give us the keys to their car to drive to St. John's 4 hours away. And we were like, you don't know us. And they took us out to their cabin. So Gambo is a little town outside of Gander for anyone who hasn't been there. This amazing town with like one road. And they had left to go to their cabin to get away from it all. And they let us stay there. And everyone was like that. Everyone we met, I mean, we were so lucky. The town was filled with press, so everyone was in storyteller mode. but everyone was looking for 5-second sound bites, you know, and we didn't know what we were looking for.
Yes, thank you for your faith, but we didn't know what we were doing. And we just were like, everyone just keep talking because we have a grant. We have to use this money well, so just keep talking to us. We'll just keep taking notes and we'll see what happens.
But like hours later, we had become friends with them, and they'd invited us back to their house, and they'd fed us, and they, you know, we saw the same generosity that Come From Ways did in 2001, and it was an extraordinary experience, you know, making all of these friends. And then, you know, for anyone who's seen the show, Beulah Cooper invited us to the Legion to be screeched in by the mayor, and the people screeched in next to us up at the front, kissing fish, were Captain Beverly Bass and her husband Tom, and Nick and Diane, who had fallen in love there. And so all of these people we met became our friends, and we wrote a show to celebrate them and to celebrate what had happened.
Did you have a little cultural envy? I find when I go to Newfoundland, I feel like they're so a part of something here that we don't have in, I mean, some people have it within their own communities in Toronto, but did you have that? We don't kiss cod where I come from. We don't have ceremonies of screeching in great celebratory fashion. I mean, did you have a little pang of that? Wow, I love this place. I wish I was a part of something.
Yeah, we kept not coming home.
Yeah,
like, we kept extending our trip.
Yeah. So Michael Rubinoff kept phoning us from Sheridan saying, how's it going? And we're like, we're not leaving. We just missed it.
When are you coming back? Yeah.
Well, you had a place to stay and the keys to the car, so why would you need to leave?
Yeah.
Sue, tell me about how you first got involved. How did you first hear about the show? I mean,
Sure. It's one of those stories where a friend of mine asked if we would meet with his son-in-law's cousin.
oh my God.
I don't know.
Something like that.
Father. These nice Canadian writers who had a show called My Mother's Lesbian Jewish Wiccan Wedding, and they needed some advice, so we said sure. And our advice was change the title. And they ignored us. So that was the first meeting. But anyway, so we were up here. We produced the tour of Memphis. And we were in Toronto to visit our tour, and we said, let's call David and Irene, see what they're up to. You know, we just had a wonderful meeting, even though they completely ignored us. And let's just see what they're up to. And it was literally the morning that they were starting the workshop rehearsals at Sheridan of Come From Away. And they were telling us the story, and we were like,
yeah, good luck with that.
Good luck with that, okay, whatever. And then the next thing we knew, we were at the National Alliance for Musical Theater Festival of New Musicals, and Junkyard Dog, our company, there's 4 of us in the company, we're really active at NAMT, and we go to the festival every year, and this...
Okay, don't do that anymore. Don't do that anymore.
Oh, sorry, that's been...
That was you, Sue.
I do this a lot. So we went to the festival, and there was a 45-minute presentation of the show at music stands, and we just fell for it.
Tell me about that, Randy. I wanted to ask you about that first impression when you actually, what was your reaction?
Well, it was funny because, you know, when they said it was going to be about 9/11, we were like, oh, God, this is going to be hard. But, you know, we were so captivated by these people and the energy and the goodness of these people and what took that story. And they just took you away. I mean, in that 45 minutes, which was basically a lot of what was then the first act. You laughed, you cried, you went on that journey. And I will never forget the moment it started with that "you are here," that very soft moment, and the tears just came. And you're like, wow, what is going on here? And from that moment on, you were theirs. They just sucked us in, and we're like, we have no idea what this show is. We don't know what to do with it. We're not sure it's a Broadway show, but we love this show, and we think it's going to have a big life, and we want to be part of it.
Was there a Canadianness to it? I feel I should ask that with this backdrop here. Was there something, or was it a universal human?
It was universal.
It was a humanity to it, you know?
Yeah, just the sheer humanity of these folks, and just taking in these people. They didn't know who they were. They could have been anybody.
Had you known that story, that part of?
No, I didn't know anything about it. Didn't know a thing about it.
No.
You know, people ask us that a lot. They're like, well, why didn't we know about this story? And you're like, well, there was kind of a lot going on in America around 9/11. So I think that's the reason. And I think if people knew about it, the only reason they knew about it was because of Tom Brokaw and the Olympics when they did the documentary that he did there, and there began to be talk of it. But no, I didn't know it at all, and so I think that's why it was so captivating. But I just felt, I come from a very small town in Ohio with about 5,000 people, and it felt like my hometown because it's like you knew everybody in town, and if anybody ever needed anything, you just took care of them. And you did what you needed to do. And I felt like that's what this story was people just taking care of each other at a time that they needed that help. And they just needed a hug, and they needed food, or they needed whatever. And I don't know, that speaks to me and my whole Midwest values and all those things, is that you just take care of people when they need it. And I think we all need to do more of that in this day and age. That's what it's about.
Christopher, you've directed all kinds of big shows, as Bruce mentioned, on Broadway. What was the hook for you? Why did you say yes here?
There's some real similarities to our stories. I grew up in a tiny town in upstate New York, so the complete not condescendingness of this script about that small town experience I really identified with. And I was in New York during 9/11, so I had all kinds of unresolved feelings. And kind of when I turned the first page, I had a little bit of dread of like, oh, is this going to hurt my feelings? And
What do you mean unresolved feelings?
I think a lot of people I know who were there at that moment have like rage about being attacked. Like North America is so protected from direct attack. We haven't had wars here in many years. And that feeling of like someone has come and like killed people we care about in our home ground. There's something that really creates a rage. So I like opened the first page with rage, and I finished the first read of the show with such a feeling of kind of gratitude and warmth, and the fact that a script could take me from rage to appreciation and a real feeling of kindness at the end. I thought like if I can do that to me, maybe it will do that to other people as well.
And so how do you strike that tone? Because you've all spoken about the warm feeling that you felt when you first saw it or first read it, but how, in putting that performance on, do you talk about a story that happened as a part of a world event that was devastating, as you said, and filled so many people with rage, and yet you have people singing and laughing about it? How do you strike that tone in the production? Maybe that's a question for all of you.
Irene and I were in New York as well, and I think a lot of what compelled us to write the show was we didn't want to write a 9/11 show. We wanted to write what we call a 9/12 show. So we wanted to write a show about how Newfoundland had responded to this larger event, and so the focus has always been there. And yet, our experience down in New York, being there, fueled it, I think, as well. We lived in a residence for international graduate students at the time. So we were part of an international community that was supporting each other and was helping each other. There was a lot of music students there, so we helped each other through music, and people would play, and we would come together as a community. And we also saw the reaction in Manhattan of, overwhelming kindness and people wanting to help and trying to, this thing that said we're all in this together. And so there was a lot of the story in Newfoundland that reminded us of that experience. But we also, we wanted to tell the story of what was there, and that's been I think what's fueled us all the way along, and it's been a real testament to these guys wanting to tell that story. I mean, I remember, one of the first things you guys said was, we need to go to Newfoundland.
It was the first thing we did,
Sorry,
actually.
what was the
We went back to Gander as the 5 of us.
Oh, we need to get to Newfoundland. Okay.
Yeah, about like a week after we decided to work on it together, we just like got in a plane and went to Gander, and spent about a week there. The first
Well, it
first
takes
time
a
we were
week
there.
to get there.
And in terms of how to work on it, like how to find the tone of it, because it's so much of the script is taken from interviews of people. Once you know the people, you have a great barometer for how do they speak, and trying to capture the truth of them, which is not the same thing necessarily as doing an impression of them. But there's something about the show that's kind of plain spoken. That's like, here's what we have to say, and this is what we mean. and it doesn't have a lot of kind of showbiz Bob Fosse hands. There's something that's kind of direct about it, which is really fun to work on.
Well, and the other thing that was so amazing about it was these people don't think they did anything. Still. I mean, they're still to this day, they're like, I don't know what the big deal is. We just gave some people some food and took care of them. They're still like that today.
Didn't someone say something to you about, oh, you're writing a music, or maybe it was to you guys,
Oh, yeah.
writing a
Rich
musical
did.
about people giving sandwiches and opening up in showers, you know, that'll be a hit. Like, so we're making it like, and because it is, at this point, you know, it is working, and it's really working. But I want to go past sort of all the, yeah, we just struck the right tone. Like, what were the creative challenges here? There had to have been moments where you went, this isn't working. Like, tell me some of those pulling out the hair stories. Like, what were the most creative challenges?
Honestly, we didn't have too many of those. It was very interesting. The show, we took a fairly long time to get to Broadway, as you probably know. When we first took it on, we didn't really know what it was. So we arranged these co-productions with the La Jolla Playhouse and the Seattle Repertory Theater, and sort of, and then the path. And every step of the way, then we went to Washington, D.C., then we came here. In between, we went to Gander, and we can talk about that. But it was tweaking, honestly. But then there were things where we say, we just want more depth from this character. We want more grit. We need to balance it out. And David and Irene are really scrupulous about being truthful to the story. So they wouldn't just say, and they wouldn't just say, well, let's just rate something here. It's like, let's go back to our notes. Let's find something that we haven't found yet. Or, you know what, we still got to go talk to Hannah again and get more depth from what she was feeling. It was that kind of thing, right? So it was really, and the process was virtually seamless. Do you know what I mean?
There were some steps. Like there were, when we first started working on it, I think there was 18 actors.
14.
14.
Yeah.
We kept getting it
moving.
smaller. Like fewer and fewer actors doing a more and more kind of impressive transformation to tell the story of 7,000 people trapped in Gander and 9,000 Ganderites.
Yeah.
But we did a workshop, a 3-week workshop, to sort of figure out the vocabulary of the movement, and that was when we cut the intermission out. And there were certain things that Kelly and Chris staged in that 3-week workshop that are still in the show. So it was like they found the vocabulary right away for telling.
what it was
because
gonna be.
that was going to be, I think, one of the biggest challenges. Is it's very direct address. We'd seen it at music stands. It worked really well, but like, how do you tell all of these stories with 12 people on a stage? You know.
And to be fair, every actor who's been in the show has had a nervous breakdown at some point. Like it's so hard because the staging is really 12 chairs that are in infinite combinations on a turntable. So like just remembering where the chairs go and your spike marks on a turning turntable. There's a moment about 2 weeks into rehearsal where every actor just like their head explodes. They're like, I don't understand.
Well, and as the review that I think all of Canada was poised to read in the New York Times with bated breath when the show did open on Broadway, you know, as they refer to, and that I love the line where they say, you know, all those actors have to switch characters and accents and turn on a Canadian dime. So yeah, there's a lot going on for the actors. I want to hear about the moment, the sort of Broadway moment, but I actually also need, before we get to there, tell me about, for whoever wants to answer this one, putting it on in Gander, because that had to be a whole different experience. So what was that?
It was life-changing.
Yeah, how so?
I mean, so first of all, it's this unique opportunity to, you know, we'd brought these guys to Newfoundland, and they had, you know, I really do want to underscore that it was a testament. Like Sue fished iceberg ice out of the ocean and almost died. Like they as Americans coming into this.
He took pictures of me crawling around on the rocks trying to get icebergs. I said, if I ever see those pictures anywhere, we are not going to Broadway.
I gave them to you on opening night.
He gave them to me opening night on Broadway.
Anyway, so it's this unique opportunity to introduce your cast to the people who inspired us, to the stories, to show them this is actually where it happened. So that alone is unique. And we'd had these amazing experiences of sharing the show with people who we had interviewed one at a time. So Claude had come out to Seattle, Beverly had come to La Jolla. And we watch them, we watch the back of their heads, and we worry that we've gotten it right, and we try to, make it a good experience for them. And this was an experience of reflecting an entire town's culture back to, there was 5,000 people who came there that day out of a population of about 10,000. So half of the population of the town came to see our show and saw their stories reflected back and their music reflected back. And we wanted to celebrate them. And it's not every day that Gander gets a Broadway musical brought back, which is, which is a testament in itself.
Okay, I'm going to move us along because I want to get to some of the questions from the audience, but I do need to ask you about either, opening night on Broadway and opening the New York Times the next day. Like that, or previews, whatever.
That night.
Like that.
Yeah.
It's all the same night.
Well,
So,
the opening,
tell me about that.
The opening was, it was fantastic. It was really exciting. We brought all of our Newfoundlanders and our come-from-aways that are featured in the show to New York. And they all came out and bowed on stage through the curtain call with the actors who portrayed them, which was
See, I'm crying again.
truly extraordinary. Derm Flynn, the mayor of Appleton, comes out wrapped in a Newfoundland flag.
It's amazing.
And best of all, as a surprise to David, we got Shanny Canuck to the party to play the party.
It was so awesome.
So what was really great was have all these New Yorkers dancing away to Shanny Canuck with all the Newfoundlanders.
Yeah.
It was really,
It was
really fun.
extraordinary.
And of course, there's always that thing. Everybody's walking around the party going, "Did you hear from the Times? The Times." Well, we're like, we don't really care. We're just having so much fun. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're going to be fine. And I went somewhere. I think I was looking for somebody, and I came back up, and somebody goes, "Critics pick, critics pick, critics pick." I'm like, what? And they're like, "Well, critics pick." I'm like, so that's good news. That's really good news. And that's exactly how it happened, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
New York Times Critics Pick. It's
We were shocked.
pretty
We were
amazing.
shocked. We were shocked. We were thrilled, and we knew we deserved it, but we didn't necessarily. You don't always get what you deserve.
No, God, no.
That's very true. One of the questions from an audience, the show is a fine example of the way that art/music can exist not only to be enjoyed, but that they have healing elements as well. What's been the response from people their grief or trauma as a result of 9/11 and come from a way's impact on this?
When we were in Washington, D.C., we had a tour of the Pentagon by a survivor who had also lost her sister there. And obviously a very, very sobering afternoon. And then we had a special performance for Pentagon families and survivors. And they were so grateful to have a story that didn't take the place of what happened and their other memories, but it was just another additional story about that day. And people started to return with other family members who had been reticent to come. And then when we got to Gander, we were doing a big dinner in the international lounge of the airport, and I look over, and there's that woman who'd given us the tour. Like she wanted, Kathy, I think I could.
Gilliber.
Yes, I wasn't sure if I could say her whole name or not, but I think she likes that I tell the story. So, but yeah, she had needed to come to Gander, and I started to have this panic attack of what did she doing here? Like, was she going to be okay? And then I looked, and she was like with people that we had interviewed, and she had a huge smile on her face, and I was like, oh my God, she's fine. She's fine. What am I even worried about? And and they're still friends now. So that's probably the largest example of what it's done, I think, or like the most distance traveled.
Congratulations on the Tony and Grammy noms / wins. Somebody writes, what's next for all of you? Which I also wanted to ask you about the film of this, how you tackle that one next. I know that is part of what's next, but what is next for all of you is the question.
We're writing the screenplay, and we're thrilled. It's really
Will it be a musical film?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're thrilled to be telling the story again to an even larger audience and sharing Newfoundland with the world. It's really exciting.
What about for you guys?
It's the most asked question we get every day.
What's next?
We're kind of busy right now just dealing with this show.
Yeah.
Because, currently it's on Broadway. We're about to open the Canadian company up here. We have a national tour that's booked for 92 weeks that launches next fall. We're currently in conversation with London and Australia and a lot of things are going on. So
The
I mean,
biggest challenge is scheduling everybody around everything that we want to do. Plus, Chris insists on doing other shows, which
yeah, like has another
and
life
running
or
a
something.
theater makes me crazy. But, yeah.
So the same choreographer, Kelly, and I are about to, right after we finish this Canadian production in Winnipeg, going to New York to open a show called Escape to Margaritaville on Broadway, which is all Jimmy Buffett tunes.
Right. I heard about that.
Oh, thank you.
And it has a Canadian star.
And
Starring
then,
Canadian Paul Nolan.
yes,
Paul
Canadian,
Starr,
and
yeah.
Keeley, who's from Newfoundland, is in that as well. And then directing the film. And the plan is very much, we don't have dates yet, but to shoot it in Gander. So that'll be exciting.
Awesome. Question for you guys. What was the first song or scene that began your writing process?
It was Welcome to the Rock, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was right at the beginning. But there's a section in Welcome to the Rock that's You Are Here, which actually
Came later.
it came a
It
little bit later, but
yeah.
those were the first words. But it was Welcome to the Rock. We started at the beginning, and just it was such a challenge to put together all of these stories. These 7,000 people who are stranded there, and almost 9,000 people in town. We joke about telling 16,000 stories and trying, So the real job was trying to composite and amalgamate and figure out how to tell this all in a 100-minute musical. And we started at the beginning and told as many as we possibly could.
This one may also be for you guys, but when was the first time you heard Newfoundland music, and what was the effect of that on the show?
So I grew up on Newfoundland music. I grew up listening to Great Big Sea and Shanty Gannuk and Figgy Duff, and I don't know why. I grew up in Saskatchewan. But my mom used to take me to the Winnipeg Folk Festival, and so there's a wide variety of Canadian music there that I was exposed to, and I fell in love with Newfoundland music. And so we had this constant debate about whether Come From Away was going to be a musical. And on September 10th, 2011, when we were out there, there was a kitchen party benefit concert at the hockey rink at the world's largest walk-in refrigerator.
Yeah.
And the Navigators came on and played, and everyone started dancing. Everyone started swinging each other around. The Come From Ways, the locals, the executives from Lufthansa who had come back, and Irene turned to me and she said, "You're totally right."
Yeah.
What about for you guys? I mean, not having grown up in Canada, like, did you know about Newfoundland music, East Coast
Not
Canadian?
really.
I didn't know.
I had a sense of it, and there's a certain familiarity with it, but I didn't know that much about it, and I didn't know a lot of the artists. And it was like when we finally figured out what we were doing and started to get into it is the first time we really kind of in any kind of depth. We went to see Alan Doyle in New York at Birdland. That was really fun. So we're starting to really we're getting our groove on.
Yeah,
with the new-
good.
Yeah, but I remember we took you to Legends out in Newfoundland in
Oh,
Gander,
come on.
and you said you're going to stay for half an hour, and I was at home, and then I wake up at like 2:30 in the morning, and no one's back yet. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
Wasn't that Shanty Gannuk?
That was Shanty Gannuk.
They were
Yeah.
amazing. We're like, this is amazing. So.
Christopher, what about for you?
I knew it, but nowhere near as deeply as I think when I first heard I had 4 demo songs when I first read the script, and I put them in my car on infinite loop. So I spent about 3 weeks of my life listening to nothing else but those 4 songs. And they're
And
all
so
still in the
now
cell.
do you listen? Now do you have have you got Great Big Sea and whatever else in your playlist?
I do, actually.
Like,
Yeah,
has it
no,
kind of
it's all in my
has it
playlist.
wormed its way into the rest of your lives?
It also, like, the musicianship of making that music, is really center on stage. I mean, the whole band is on stage, and one of the things we discovered really early in performances at La Jolla is when we did the kind of playoff music for the audience to leave, nobody would leave. They were so enjoying the music that we ended up creating a 5-minute just jam session with the band, and everyone stays for it because the music is so infectious and it feels so necessary to telling the story.
Thank you all so much. That brings us to the end of our time, but I think you've certainly illuminated a lot for people who have seen the show already, and certainly inspired the rest of us to get out and see it all for ourselves. Again, big congratulations. The whole country is rooting for more and more success from Come From Away. So, cheers.
That was a really terrific discussion. I often come to our lunches at the Canadian Club expecting to leave maybe just a bit smarter about a topic, and we certainly got that today. But it's rare to have such a really a heartwarming discussion. I was smiling the whole time while you were all talking. It's such an inspiring story, both the story that you're telling, that you've told through Come From Away, but also the story of making the musical and all the great success that it's had. So what a terrific and really heartwarming discussion. Thanks for making part of my day, and I'm sure I can speak for the whole audience, part of all of our days that much brighter and warmer. Thank you. And certainly as part of that, a special thank you, Gillian, for moderating our discussion. You did a great job. It was really terrific, so thank you. So we do have one last order of business, and it's an important one. Every year for the last 25 years, or certainly most years, the Canadian Club of Toronto has presented its Canadian of the Year Award to recognize and celebrate those whose efforts and example have improved the lives of others and inspired us as a nation. This year, we are pleased to honor Come From Away's Irene Sankoff and David Hein with our award. Come get it. We also wanted to salute Michael Rubinoff, who was mentioned a number of times in the discussion, another important contributor, and he actually sent us a quick note to read. He's in China, so couldn't be with us today. He said, "I regret I'm not able to join you today to accept the Canadian of the Year award alongside my friends Irene and David. I'm currently in Shanghai continuing to showcase the best of Canadian values through the development of new musicals by Canadian and Chinese theatre practitioners and by working in this part of the world to advance arts education. I want to thank everyone on the stage today who brought the show to life, along with the hundreds of dedicated artists and students that gave their heart and talent to this show." So that's from Michael Rubinoff. Before we conclude, I would like to thank MediaEvents.ca, Canada's online event space, and for VVC for live streaming today's event. To learn more about us, the Canadian Club, please visit us at thecanadianclub.org. And let me take this opportunity to wish all of you a wonderful holiday season and all the best for 2018. My name is Andrew Graham, by the way. I'm the president-elect of the Canadian Club. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a great luncheon, and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye-bye.